All right, thank you all so much for joining Fusion Exchange Virtual. In this session, we'll hear about one customer's accounts payable journey with Concur and discuss how an automated AP process has really helped their organization achieve some operational efficiencies and really overcome some unique business challenges. My name is Alex Robison. I'm a senior consultant from Concur's Services and Delivery Department. So in other words, I implement and configure our services. In addition to that, I work ongoing with several customers with Advanced Care, which is Concur's ongoing consulting service. We're joined today by Barron, who's the accounts payable manager at Lantmannen and Unibake. Bernie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi there, my name is Barron. I live in Illinois. We have a bakery plant in St. Petersburg, Florida. Our AP department works remotely, so that's one reason why we visited AP Concur, and that's why we had put it into our system, and we like it. Thank you.
And Jodi, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm Jodi McLain. I'm a solutions advisor. My background is actually accounting and finance. I was a client first. Like Bernie, I was AP. And then I moved to Concur, where I spent, like Alex, the first several years implementing the tool. And so in this role as a solutions advisor, I like to say I get to marry those two backgrounds, my real world and functional background. Awesome. So I'll be going over today over the overview of our Concur invoice tool.
Perfect. Thank you, Jodi. So what will we cover today? We've already covered introductions. Next, we'll hear a little bit more from Bernie about their AP journey before and after Concur. Jodi, as she said, will take us through an overview of Concur's invoice solution. So let's dive in. Just some food for thought before we get too far. According to the Institute of Finance and Management, AP teams with an end-to-end automation and consistent workflows process over 2 times as many invoices per employee as their peers. So for those of you listening in today who have automated your expense reporting process with Concur, you already know how automation boosts productivity, gives you better visibility into your spend, and in general allows you to be more proactive. Well, the same benefits can be realized when moving your AP processes onto Concur, and that's because many of the same technologies you're familiar with on the expense tool are also leveraged in our invoice tool. So think optimal character recognition technology with Expenseit, the ability to capture that receipt data or that invoice data rather and pre-populate those line items. AI with verification and audit services, automated approval flows, the ability to just set and forget, and even employee and credit card payments. So taking a moment to consider your current process. Is it user-friendly? Could it handle growth or rapid changes in your organization with agility, or might it cause some disruption? Is it efficient, or does it pull you away from other tasks? Are there any areas you feel could be improved? So Bernie, it's 2021, and you had already implemented Concur's expense solution, and you contact your Concur sales team with the realization that you think you might need to start automating your invoices as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what your AP process looked like prior to automation, and what were some of the major challenges your organization was facing around that process?
Well, this was after the pandemic, and we had a corporate office in Lyle, Illinois. That's why I'm in Illinois. And they were going to shut down that office, and we had to think of a way to be paperless because we were gonna work remotely. So we just asked Concur because we already have Concur, and we were introduced to Concur expense expense and travel through the Institute of Finance and Management, which you had a caption a couple minutes ago because it mentions that we work more efficiently, and it's true to their statement. And so we did that, and instead of taking 100 invoices and entering them and taking them, putting a file cabinet, and then also, it's just way more efficient, and the approval process is efficient, and the best part of it is year-end audit. You can just give your laptop to the accountant, and you can show him, okay, your reports for these types of invoices, you can look for it yourself.
Yep.
I don't have to give you a file folder. So that has helped, and it was worth the investment. It has saved the company money as well.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie, for that. So, not only, there was a catalyst moment for you then
Yes.
where, there were some major changes, i.e. you were basically, losing an office where you were
Yes.
holding the physical
File,
paperwork.
yeah, files,
Right.
yeah.
So you
'Cause we were managing the files,
Right.
yeah.
So you had to really kind of
Yes.
think fast and have a solution that would help sustain you through that process. But then it sounds like you were also able to streamline some of the daily, tasks anyway.
Yes.
You mentioned auditors, now you can just give them a sign in and they can look for that
Yes.
invoice as opposed to probably running to, a file cabinet
Right.
for them.
Yes.
So I do have to ask, and I know you mentioned the Institute of Finance and Management. What were some of the determining factors for Concur being your vendor of choice?
Well, we liked them. We thought they did a very good onboarding with the expense report training. And if we had questions, somebody's there to help us. They were a phone call away. They'd email us. So now we have Teams, so they Teams us, because of communication. And because we liked them, because we already had them as a vendor as well. And we knew how they kind of work, so we're very familiar with them.
Right. Yeah, especially for an end user, you're not, obviously having to, hand out new usernames and
Exactly.
obviously you probably still had to train some people, but
Yeah.
it was in a tool where they already, all they probably had to do was go in and notice they have another
Yeah.
module they have access
Yes.
to. And just being from the implementation department myself, and I know, Jodi, you can probably attest to this, one other benefit I think a lot of customers experience is when you've already automated your expense reports with Concur, a lot of times the IT team has already built a lot of the basic infrastructure. So it is, when you're thinking about in this day and age, we have to do a lot more with a lot less. We're trying to be efficient, right? So when you're considering moving forward, what kind of resources is it going to take? So I
Right.
think it's a little bit more of low-hanging fruit when you think, okay, we've built this infrastructure already, and you're probably still going to have to involve them a little bit. But I think, if you guys would agree, it's probably a little bit less of a heavy lift.
Exactly, because you have employees that, we're already on expense, it, so they're approver for an expense report, then they're approver for an invoice. So they're
Exactly.
already in the system, and also we're the client pay where we pay our own bills, so we have to do an extract file. So we first did that with expense,
Right.
and now we do it. So then that's another reason why.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you for that. So Jodi is going to take it from here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Alex. So I'm going to take you through kind of an overview of the Concur invoice tool. Some of the things that we see is, what we've talked about is if you're already using travel and expense, adding on the invoice module really helps you get a full picture of your entire employee spend. And so being able to have that visibility, it really makes everything more efficient. So there's a couple areas we want to talk through. When we talk about whether you are manually processing invoices or if you are kind of semi-automated, here's a few areas where we really see a lot of benefits. We can take you all the way from capture all the way through payments of an invoice, and then the analytics and reporting for vendors. So we're going to take a look at each one individually, and I'll be asking Bernie questions as we go through. So manage capture. So this is a service that's about making your life easier. It really is a way for invoices to come into Concur. We use our AI technology. We have 5 layers of technology, and we have had AI in this space for a very long time. I know AI is kind of the new thing right now, but this has been around for a long time. So we bring invoices in, really allows you to have less time having to manually key everything in. And really from a storage perspective, And that's where I want to, turn to you, Bernie. You've mentioned that, you don't have to deal with the filing cabinets anymore, and you're in audit is always helpful now that you have access at your fingertips. How's that really improved?
That has really improved. Like let's say if you send an employee that works in production, they want to report, and then they requested, can I get the invoice copies? I really need we can get them invoice copies. It's just you're sitting at your desk and you just look them up, download them on your computer, and put in a zip file and email them to them. Before, had to get up, take your report, get your ruler. Oh, that was from last year, and I got to go to the boxes from 2022.
Yep.
So that's so much more efficient.
Great. Yeah. So then thank you for that. Another area where we see a lot of efficiencies gained is through the approval process. Once the invoices come in, then where do those invoices go? And that's where we can automatically route your invoices to the right person, wherever they need to go, whether it's a PO or a non-PO invoice. We can route both. And so it really allows for the delay, it reduces the delays in getting the invoices approved. You get faster turnaround time. You get, your vendors are getting paid a lot quicker, so you're probably fielding a lot less questions because you're able to get things approved more in a timely manner. And so, Bernie, again, I'll turn to you. You've mentioned that too, that having the automation, because weren't you before using emails to get the approval?
Or somebody's in basket.
Yes, or
if our office is our corporate office is closed, so that's why we got to have that. Yeah. So, but emails, you email people, then you have to always send a reminder because they're not going to remember. And you got to keep sending it. This is when they're going to remember. Did you pay that invoice yet after you process payment? No, because you never approved it. So that's why it's easier. But when you're in Concur, you do submit. It means they get an email, and you have there's on your dashboard you have one that says unsubmitted approved invoices. I believe, I can't remember. Well, you go on there. I sent that 5 days ago. Resubmit. And then 5 minutes, it's approved.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's better. It's so much better.
Nice. Yeah. So when you think about the efficiencies you've gained, you're not having to track anyone down, and you have that full visibility through the entire process.
And here's another good thing: in Concur, there's a note section where I had somebody in marketing tell me that, you could see the GL and all that. Can you change the GL and the purpose code to this? Because this is really a different type of project. So then I corrected the invoice, but it was approved, and it said, I approve it, but please change the GL and all that. So you can do that. That's why there's notes in there.
Well, and then you mentioned, email reminders. If someone doesn't approve it in time, we have, just like the expense side, you can send out those automatic emails.
Yes.
So that helps keeps things streamlined and the process flowing.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So another area we see a lot of improvement is the payments when it comes to paying vendors. What we see a lot of times is really when vendors want to, or clients want to continue to make payments the way they are today, maybe out of their ERP system or through wires, however they're doing it today. But this is a really big area where there's a lot of efficiencies that you can gain through here, because paying directly out of Concur keeps everything in one location. One less step of moving data from one system to another, because Concur can initiate those payments for you. Can do payments for ACH, checks, virtual cards, credit card vouchers, and it really can help consolidate your payment process and really, to your point, have that information in one location. So if a vendor's ever calling asking for details, it's easy to find it in that one location. And last really is the data insights. So one of the dashboards, the processor dashboard that you see, it's, having full visibility is very critical for several reasons. It enhances the efficiency really by allowing organizations like yourself to really track all of those invoices, where they're at in the process, and you're able to really reduce the risk, and you're able to see where the bottlenecks are, and you can reach out to get those invoices whenever you need them. Another great area is the processor dashboard. Being able to, as a vendor calls and ask, where's my invoice? You're able to have this like souped up search feature on here that you can search for any invoice by any vendor, by submitter. There's lots of different ways that you can search for the invoices you need. Another tip that we always like is to really work with the queries. That gives you that kind of predefined search that you need. And I know, Bernie, you've mentioned before that you use the queries. What are some of the advantages you've seen of that?
I use it because I'm seeing, well, we didn't get that invoice. And so I look and we didn't get it. So, I mean, that's how efficient this is. And also, like a specific invoice, you could look it up. I use a query all the time. One thing I want to say is that if, let's say somebody wanted an invoice in a different department and they wanted like 5, or they just wanted to see where it came from, you could go to where your invoice captures at and look for the email. Because we have vendors, they just email directly Concur, they don't email us. And then I'm like, oh, well, let me find it. I do like you do a search and you find it and you just forward to them. So that's really nice. Yeah. That's a nice feature too.
Yeah. Yeah. So just, being able to the full transparency and being able to quickly answer those questions. Did you find that switching to an automated process like this maybe reduced the number of questions you were getting from vendors? 'Cause we see that a lot of times where the process gets so efficient that you're not having to field a lot of questions from vendors.
And I also, yes, that does help a lot, especially with the vendors we use for Concur. That's really more like a streamlined, efficient process right now. Yes.
Okay. Great. So what we've been talking about so far really is where's the invoice in the process. But there's other dashboards that really can show you the overall AP program for you. Not just where the invoice is, but start showing you, how much is the spend, totals by vendors. These are custom, these are standard dashboards, but you can certainly have custom dashboards, catered to whatever information you need. Maybe you need it by different plants or locations. These things can be built in. So if we just kind of step back and really imagine a world where your AP process is fully streamlined and automated. So by simplifying and automating the AP process is really critical for several reasons. It can significantly reduce the time and effort required to manage invoices and payments. By automating repetitive tasks, you can free up valuable resources. And additionally, just a simplified and automated AP process, like we've said, can improve visibility and really give you a better sense and control of your financial operations. So you can easily track where invoices are, you can have stronger relationships with your vendors because they're not having to track you down. It's just a much better, efficient process. So what we would really like to say today is, as you go through this, really think about your process and where you're at in your AP journey. Are you using these tools that we've gone over today, and are you using them in the most efficient way? So as we wrap up, just want to remind you to add in any feedback for these sessions. And also, don't forget to, ask any questions in the chat. And thank you for attending our